Ready? So, hi again. Hi for those who just arrived. Welcome to the final stretch of the home stretch of the marathon, the hackathon. On behalf of the Unbias research project, thanks very much for participating. It's helpful for us. I hope you had a good time. I certainly found it really interesting. I want to thank all the mentors who volunteered their time as well, the judges, and I'm going to introduce the judges before we get started. So from my right to my left, which is maybe unconventional, Richard Jones, who's a senior lecturer in criminology at the University of Edinburgh. Next to him is Robert Eddie Noble from Capital One, generous provider of sponsors, of prizes indirectly. So thanks for Capital One as well for sponsoring this event. Then Clara Crivellaro, from research fellow from Open University in Newcastle. And next to her is Giles Lane, who's part of the Unbias research project and who's founder and director of Proboscis in London. And finally, I have a blank. John McAleese, senior business development executive with the School of Informatics and again, University of Edinburgh. And we've briefed them extensively on what you've done and what we've told you. So hopefully they'll have the same ideas about what's good and what's bad as we've given you in the previous training. So with that, enjoy yourselves for this, this little interactive session. And I'd like to call on the first team, so square bracket, if you want to step up to the mic.
All right, everyone can hear me? Yeah. So hi, we're Squared Brackets. That's a team composed of 4 people. You can read our names there, evidently. So the ethical problem that we decided to tackle over the course of the last 2 days was that many people don't really fully understand GDPR, or even more so, are apathetic to how websites treat their data and how their rights are respected under GDPR. And furthermore, many websites still avoid actually informing those users through use of obtuse UI. So there are a few existing solutions that seek to tackle this problem by informing the user. Data Rights Finder is a hand-curated list, but we found that most solutions are completely commercial. So in response, we decided to come up with an ethical solution, which is a GDPR scanner. It's a REST API which provides data about the SSL certificate, privacy policy, and contact details of a given website. And this API is then connected to through a website and a browser extension to provide an interface. This is all available completely open source at github.com/URL. So our approach allows on-demand scraping of any site. We don't store any data. You make a request and we scrape it, and is, as a result, easily turned into an extension and easily scaled up. This is an example of our working website this morning. So we entered theguardian.com, automatically scraped, found 0 issues. With theguardian.com, the site doesn't use any tracking programs. Generally speaking, it's GDPR compliant. You can see up there, there's a tab to see the actual JSON returned if you're a developer. For those who are interested in the business case, this is completely free and open source, which means we don't really have a competitor. If somebody wants to improve this from the viewpoint of ethics, from the viewpoint of good for humanity for the users, anyone can come in and improve our stuff. They can self-host, and as a result of the low-cost solution that we've invented, this can be hosted for absolutely no money at all. We can run this indefinitely at practically no cost, and scale it up indefinitely as well. We have some ideas for further work. We could apply machine learning to analyze the privacy policies, link certain keywords to certain privacy policies, link certain items, certain structures within that. We could detect trackers and cookies, evidently more in a much more fine-grained manner by using existing lists that we've seen online, such as those implemented by uBlock, the very famous extension for blocking ads, and also for detecting default opt-in, opt-out options. Thank you. Yep.
Working? Yeah. So I guess that the scanning is going to be algorithmic, so you're looking for privacy policy and compliance. What are you going to do about false positives? So if by mistake you handle that.
So first I'd mention that if we go back and we actually see the site, we don't make any actual claims about non-compliance. We simply make quite factual statements about trackers detected, contact emails, privacy policy. It would be fairly simple to implement towards the end some sort of form where they can request a change. Really, because of the scale of this issue, there's not so many moving parts, so it's very easy, once again, to manage and scale at a very, very low cost.
Thanks very much, Dylan, for your talk. So who do you anticipate would actually kind of use this? Would a user go to your site every single time before they visit a website?
So essentially, the way that this, the technological things, we've the populated data here where we take the JSON endpoint and we turn it into HTML here, that can be inserted into any web extension. So we've already begun work that sources, again, freely available online, on actually having a web extension that will automatically do this for you at every web page that you visit.
Yeah, but could you just explain what you think the user will do with this information?
So the user can use this information, first of all, to sort of get an idea
with schools and other organizations, charities such as the Electronic Frontier Foundation or the Open Rights Group, as well as a research project, just as the Unbias project, in order to figure out what sort of questions do we need to be asking and what are some realistic consequences. On the technical side of things, we are currently developing a browser extension which will interrupt your usual workflow, and then you are given a choice that you need to make, you submit it, you carry on. Later on, after you've done a few choices, you can then sign into your dashboard and see what choices have you made, how do they affect the overall story, and also potentially dangerous or harmful decisions, what could you have done better? We realize that interrupting workflow can be quite annoying for some people, so we also give the option to personalize how and when you want to be interrupted. We have also thought about some additional questions and topics that we want to look into. Again, as I said previously, we will work together with the organizations that I mentioned before to scope out these issues and what we want to look at in detail for the questions. Okay, so to conclude, we are looking to work alongside already existing more traditional in-person education in schools by using our product that integrates there, giving teachers statistics, etc., so they can address these issues in person with their students and create, or rather educate, digital citizens of the future that are both confident and secure. Thank you very much.
Here we go. Thank you for your presentation. I was just picking up on the user experience. So it was interesting that obviously you recognize that it can be quite annoying.
Yes.
I wonder if you thought specifically about the user group,
Yes.
so which are children,
Yes.
and how you might make it more engaging.
Yes.
I mean, it could be annoying for an adult.
Yeah.
What would make a child stick with it?
Yes. So just to reiterate your question, I'm not sure if it's on the live stream from this microphone or. I'll just, so what about our user group that we're targeting? What about the user experience? So there's a few considerations that we wanted to make. First of all is the gamified aspect of it. So you're building a story and the interjections into your usual browsing are kept to a minimum. So it's just decisions, and then it's only every so often, maybe half an hour, 15 minutes. Regarding our user group in particular, we're looking into building an app as well that sort of combines the interjection as well as your dashboard of information, as we do realize that our target user group uses smart devices or smartphones, tablets as primary sort of way to access digital content.
Okay, then I might ask further clarification because I didn't get the story. So, for me as a child, what this offer is the opportunity to create the history of my browsing. What's the narrative that I'm building?
So the idea is that you have a digital avatar, which is sort of a representation of, if you will, yourself. And the avatar is then faced with certain story decisions. So the avatar would, for example, sign up for evil social media website XYZ, and then the user is given the choices of what to do. And the user's choices then transfer into consequences for their virtual avatar, creating a sort of safe space of a story. Well, what if this was me, you know? If this character was me and I would have made this decision in real life, building the story that it builds up to in the end, it would have had consequences for me in real life instead.
Thank you.
I've got a question for you. A clarification, really. I mean, you said you were thinking of using this in schools.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, how would it relate to the curriculum?
Okay.
I think the examples you've given us are more about people's personal browsing habits that they might do at home or at leisure. I didn't quite understand how it works, say, in a lesson where actually an interruption to research could be problematic.
So the idea is, just to reiterate, how does this plug into already existing curriculum or into existing lessons? So the idea is not that this will be used exclusively inside the lesson. This would be something that's installed and used for the usual browsing habits, but it doesn't look at the usual browsing habits itself, it just interrupts the browsing habits. And then this can be tailored to the curriculum, because we are looking to work together with the government, with government institutions and the schools to actually build a curriculum on these digital issues. So again, we're looking at privacy, we're looking at security, so things like phishing could be implemented as well. Looking at a sort of modular approach of what does each school or school district particular need to plug into their curriculum that's already existing. Okay, thank you very much.
Can I call Team Alva?
Yeah. Hi. Okay. Hi. We're Ava. I'm Adrian. He's Virat, V, and the third A dropped out. So I'm going to show you a picture of an actual human brain. Okay, you ready? It's a bit graphic. Okay. So that's a rational decision maker, and that's an instant gratification monkey. And both people live in your brain. Okay. And usually they happily coexist. The rational decision maker takes care of things like planning and working and thinking, and the monkey takes care of things like relaxing, having fun, stuff like that. Sometimes, if you feed the monkey too much dopamine, this happens. The monkey takes over, and you're very unhappy. This brings me to Facebook. Facebook is good. It's useful. It's fun. You get to connect with people. You get to meet new people. You get to go to awesome events like this hackathon. But also, Facebook is free, which means that they rely on advertising to exist. The way you make money off of advertising is by keeping people hooked on your product for as long as possible. So that means that you need to feed the monkey. because it's easier than feeding the rational decision maker. What do they feed the monkey? They give you drugs. No, I'm joking. They give you the digital equivalent of drugs. So they give it stuff like likes and infinite scrolling on your Facebook feed, and these little flashy red buttons that make you always come back, and this little one where you're like in a different tab and you want to go to that tab because there's a little one and you're annoyed because you want to make it go away. All this sends the monkey into super hyperdrive, and it's really, really like intense and addicted to Facebook. So this leads to actual harm in the world. Facebook is super addictive, and research has shown, because we have an academic title thing, that it can lead to addictive-like symptoms and or scarce self-regulation, and this leads to social and personal problems. So there's one possible solution, which is just to encourage everyone to do this. Do not feed the monkey, so don't go on Facebook. And we think that's not the right solution, because Facebook is useful. And so instead, we want to put this guy in charge. We want to make the rational decision maker take over and feed the monkey less, put the monkey on a diet. And so the way we do this is threefold, triple-pronged. The first, these guys, you are like happily working, and then there's a little one that pops up, and you really want to go to the screen. We made an extension that makes it disappear. The little red stuff on your messages and friend requests and notifications, that's annoying, so we made it gray, like that. This is a demo of what we have. It's not very good because we're bad at JavaScript and we're sleep deprived. But so what happens here, this is a little counter that tells your rational decision maker, oh, this is how much time you're spending. And so it increments every 10 seconds or every few minutes, like however much you want. Also, there's a little pop-up that tells you to snap out of it. And so it blocks you from scrolling, and you have to say, yes, I definitely want to continue scrolling if you want to continue scrolling. And if not, you can just leave the thing, and everything will be fine. Yes, so the distribution is open source. It's free, easy to host. And in the future, we could extend this by giving the rational decision maker a choice as to which one it wants to, which type of posts that it wants Facebook to serve you. So if you're more like friend-focused or if you're more comedy-focused, you can do that. And limit the amount of posts in general. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
How do you intend to gain impact from this?
Yes, so funny you ask. We're called AVA. The third A was supposed to build, she's a filmmaker. She's supposed to build like a fun viral video that that brings attention to this type of stuff. And also, there would be an associated website where you could just read about all the horrors of Facebook and all the psychological tricks they use to keep you addicted. And then it would link to the extension. So that was the plan. Unfortunately, she dropped out, so we couldn't do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is that it? Thank you very much again. Yeah, keep learning.
No name, we identify as a problem is that companies are showing discriminatory practices in their hiring process. So to prove this, we have two articles. One of them was they were sending CVs of identical CVs, one under the name Adam and the other under the name Mohammed. Adam was called triple as Mohammed. And then one by the University of UK, both studies are from the UK. It showed that Muslim men are 76% less likely to get a job than their Christian counterpart. So the importance that we need to fight this ethical issue is that companies might get lawsuits. So for example, Palantir had to pay almost 200 million to settle US dollars to settle down last year in a case of alleged discriminatory practices against Asian applicants. So as a result, as a solution, we create this amazing product called Perlite.
Hello. So for companies that want to improve, companies want to make sure all of our managers are being fair, we can take data from the company, we can then process that data, and we can provide information back to the company through a website and reports. So first of all, we made some fake data with a bad hiring manager. And you can see on our website through our first report that it's obvious that manager 5 is hiring much less women than the other managers. We are aware of Goodhart's law. So firstly, we're not showing scores or a leaderboard back to the hiring managers to make sure we don't incentivize them to take strange actions. And also we're aware that this identifies possible problems and isn't actually proof of a problem. So in this example, for instance, there might be a good reason why that particular figure is distorted. Here's another more complex. Of older men, but also lots of young women. In this case, maybe the manager might have been sent for retraining. So that is an example showing comparing staff to other staff. We've also thought about other data sources we could use, another comparison we can make to highlight problem areas.
The business model we thought would suit best the solution is SAS yearly fee.
So we would charge yearly for the companies to use our solution. So far, we've not identified any direct competitors for this, so we think it's a very good opportunity. And we are inspired by the Happier Not model because they were able to get very insightful interpretation of the data from a very simple source. And so far, they're really successful.
And lastly, just to mention that Perlite can be used also in other areas where discriminatory effects has been identified, like, for example, in police records on stop and search, where we have found that between 2016 and 17, significantly more black people than white have been considered as suspicious. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks, really interesting. I was wondering, it sounds like this tool would be for organizations, so employers, for example, to ensure that their processes are fair. I wonder if such tool would be available for citizens to check on these organizations. Would that be feasible, for example, and what would be the implications for that?
So I guess, the question is, could this be available for citizens to check on organizations? So I guess one thing is to be very careful of is that we are starting off by handling very private data about employment stuff. So anything, it's something we hadn't considered, but I guess we could sort of maybe release a report on companies, but we'd have to be very careful to make sure that all your data was anonymized properly. And in terms of citizens using it directly, I think because you need a lot of data from to make sure that there's no problems, you're presenting an accurate report back, it would be maybe quite hard to just check a couple of decisions, but it's when you have a large number of decisions, you can hopefully pick out problems.
So thank you for your presentation. In some businesses and some sectors, there aren't going to be very many hires every year. So does that give a problem for your model? And are there going to be some sectors that you might want to target where there are lots of hires, so there's a lot of comparative data you can use?
Yes, I mean, if there were very few hires, then it could be a problem because it'd be very hard to pick out an accurate result. But I think we think there are still a lot of places this could be applied to. So the example we worked on was sort of a nationwide coffee chain. And that was partly inspired by something I was reading recently about one of the other big coffee chains had been told off for a certain behaviour when it came to organising shifts for their workers. And so they had said that they were going to change this, but then they found out that the individual managers were still doing this behaviour. And so it's interesting to think that even when you have a company that at the top wants to change, there could be lower down, there could still be things happening that aren't ideal. And so that's, yeah, so in terms of really big companies like that, this just helps upper management check on what individual managers are doing.
A quick follow-up question to that. At a big company like that coffee chain, what value do you offer them over them choosing to do it themselves? So they could hire some data scientists and solve the problem in-house?
Sure. Well, you could ask the same question to Happy or Not, and they're doing very well. I think as a professional programmer, I know how much companies outsource to other IT suppliers. And also, as the company would go on and build up expertise and build up knowledge, then they would be able to provide, because of scales of economy, they would be able to provide that as cheaper than a company could do it in-house.
That's good. Thank you very much.
Clicker. Oh, table.
Could we have Team CDS next?
We're doing this going to be supervision as well. I will start. Just give me the handheld mic. Yeah. Okay. Hi everyone. So need this. It's pass that on. Can you hear me? Is that working? Cool. Does it have a pointer?
No, not really, no. There's no...
Okay, well, anyways, okay, cool. Hi guys, hey, nice to meet you. Yeah, cool. So, can I have the clicker? Nope. Can I use that? Cheers. So, yeah, I will start by saying that we've been trying this over the last 24 hours. I don't know whether anyone of you has tried to accessing your data over this GDPR thing, but it's really, really hard. And it's for two main reasons. When you ask, say, Facebook to send you your data on that they have collected on you, that's going to be a very large file. That's the first problem. And then often for different companies, this might be in like an opaque format, like a CSV file. Now, there's certainly people in this room that would find it easy to sort of work on data like that, but there's a majority of people out there that would find it very hard. We've come up with a sort of visual and very easy to use solution, which is a platform through which people can request their personal data that's stored with all these big companies and that they can use to analyze their personal data. Yeah, we thought it would be cool if we showed you like a small demo. So this is like this is where we start from. You just enter your email address that is associated with your accounts, and then you get to something like this, and then we tell you up there that we found accounts with some of these companies, and then you'd have to issue a request. This is usually not instant. This takes time. Yeah. At some point, the company might send you an email that your data is there, or it might not. We're not sure for all the companies. But this particular user here has registered his Spotify account with our website, and we found some issues with his or her data. And then there's like this is supposed to be like a premium feature that we were thinking about sort of implementing, where you can talk to a lawyer if you have issues with your data and you want to modify something in specific. But you can also go ahead and just visualize your data or sort of interpret your data through our platform. That might look like this. Like on the left-hand side, it tells you that a certain thing isn't of issue. Yeah. So apparently, you disallowed Spotify from looking at your playlist history, so we give you like a green mark for that. But there are certain things that you should be concerned about, maybe. And then
Again, as like a premium feature, you might be able to change this through a legal team that we employ in a house or something like that. Okay.
As you saw, like Lucas showed, it's quite simple. You just put your email address inside. And yesterday we had a presentation that was really complicated, and we want to break it down for the normal user. And still, there are two issues that are really, really important. First is we have to store the data because it's big storage and needs big storage. And the other one, we have to build trust for the consumer. We are doing that by needing their consent on the other hand, and on the other hand, we need the consumer always to be able to delete, change, or modify his data at our place.
So that's an important thing that needs to be transparent. But yeah, we do feel that there's a real sort of need for these things. We don't think that it's right that in theory you should have access to all this data, but it's really, really hard to access it for the majority of people out there. As sort of our vision, or where we think this might be monetizable, is there could be like a legal team in-house that would offer services. Not everyone wants to disable their accounts with Facebook. They might just not want Facebook to access a certain kind of data. That might be trivial, that might not be trivial. This is where a team of lawyers can come in. And then sort of one thing that we find very exciting is if you're able to scale this up and have a large user base, then you could really sort of start pressurizing companies into compliance with GDPR and have like class action lawsuits, petitions, things like that. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks very much for the talk. I've got a quick question about how security would work. So on the demo you showed typing in an email address and then finding out that you had 10 out of 14 accounts like Spotify.
Yeah.
I guess there's another layer going to be in there because otherwise I could type in your email address and find out which accounts you have.
Right, yeah. So we've sort of skipped over this. That's like a big issue as well, right? Because of the sheer size of the data that we would have to analyze here, you probably wouldn't be able to go past an account-based model or something like that. And then within the scope of that, you'd probably be able to address some of these security concerns.
So I guess you'd have to have me as the user log into my Facebook account and my Spotify account in order to get access to the data in the first place.
Possibly, possibly. But maybe from a legal perspective, and I'm no expert in that sort of field, it might be possible to just give your consent and have us do it. That might be possible. We're not sure.
So thanks very much for the presentation. I wonder how many people actually want to consult a legal expert about the GDPR. So I wondered if you thought about that business model. And clearly you're going to have very large hosting costs because the amount of data that you're going to be downloading and storing is going to be huge. So the money's got to come from somewhere. So I wondered if you'd kind of done some calculations about what kind of revenue you'd need to cover your costs.
I think we have different kind of ideas about that. First, it's a freemium system. That was also kind of an idea in our head, but mostly it's about funds from the states. I think there are also like plenty of systems right now, like helping children, like learning how to deal with data in the future. And there are a lot of funds right now going up in every country in Western Europe.
And yeah, we do believe that governments would have an interest in like everyday people being able to sort of, I mean, they've come up with all these laws, and 99% of people can't really make use of anything, and that's sort of that's just a bit odd, it's just a bit weird.
Thank you very much.
Do we have Team Power Hardcore?
So let's start with what it is. We have a discourse report. It regularly retweets the popularity and the negativity associated with various politicians, as well as an icon that will show you whether that's gone up or down or is neutral, and it will let you see day-to-day changes and trends. We have done this because there are negatives to mental health that come from engaging in Twitter discourse, and that it can be annoying and get you down to try and engage with all of the sort of negativity that flows around on there. And that can promote echo chambers where people try and insulate themselves from that. But you still kind of want, and I think I still kind of want to engage with the levels of toxicity that are on Twitter, if not with direct toxicity itself. And so being able to abstract some of that away and show it without necessarily having to engage with it is a good thing. So from an ethical standpoint, a Twitter bot is a sort of fun and hopefully small way that we can engage with this. It's not a replacement for good debate, but it is hopefully just going to bring a bit of information to people's day, and I think that can only be good. We do have some potential problems with this. One is that Twitter itself has problems with bots and with farms of people posting comments. Twitter itself is having difficulty dealing with that, and it's been reasonably scandalous. It's hard for us to comprehensively deal with that ourselves in a weekend. It looks like Twitter has resources on it, and they haven't managed either. We can hopefully improve people's lives by just letting them get this information. It's good to have. It's also good to sort of start collecting this data, which we have started about doing, so that we can take a look at trends as they relate to news. Do people get more negative if a politician does anything at all? Do people get more negative if a politician does something bad? We'd really love to come back to this in a few months and take a look at how that goes. Our business case is that the bot is basically able to run on one computer and doesn't take very much maintenance. It's got simple code that we have made open source, but first and foremost, we are intending on maintaining this ourselves, taking every few months, 5 minutes to change the names of politicians that it's doing as they change out. It is a Twitter bot, so it has the same interactivity as any other Twitter account. You can follow us. We are at Discourse Report, all one word, on Twitter. Will it be ready, or is it ready? Yeah, there it is. It's posting every 5 minutes right now because we just wanted to fill up its speed to give a good example. That's us. Go follow us on Twitter.
Thank you very much. I was wondering whether by encouraging people to follow only positive figures or positive people, positive comments, you maybe unwillingly encouraging a different sort of echo chamber through your solution?
I think people try to only follow positive things anyway, and that's often a sort of unintentional thing. And that's often people's ethos on Twitter, that they're going to get rid of people that they don't agree with. This is, if anything, bringing people closer to that sort of thing by at least showing them that it's there, and letting them engage with it to that level. And if you go, whoa, there's a lot of negative tweets about this person, and I'm not seeing any of them, hopefully that's going to let them engage with that if they want to.
Yeah, the bot itself doesn't really promote any kind of specific habits. It just makes the information available for those that might want to use it that way. That's just a suggestion for what people might want to use the data for.
Thanks for your presentation. So I think that your project idea touches on something quite important, namely that there seems to be kind of a problem in the political space, both with how it's used, possibly in a sort of manipulative way, but also the pressures it might put on people who want to follow it. But I wonder if, could you say a bit more about the popularity thing? Because I didn't quite get that. And I wondered, for example, if you had an extremist politician who was scoring high because lots of people found that message attractive, well, how would people be expected to interact or engage with that?
So I think when you get extremism, we get some really quite polarized comments, and those are actually hopefully easy to analyze when it comes to the sentiment analysis work that we're doing. And that means that we're going to recognize that they have a lot of negativity around them, as well as a lot of positivity. And that's going to show up. They're going to score highly on negativity and polarization scores. I think it's hard to deal with extremism in any political way, let alone over a weekend. I don't think we have a really great answer to that.
Okay, could you just say, just a very brief follow-up if I may, which is, could you just explain how this is kind of going to benefit an end user? So if I see that it's an extremist politician who's generating this controversy, how do I benefit as a user?
I think it's good to be informed and to have that kind of news as a baseline. I think just knowing that there are controversies happening can broaden your horizons and keep you informed of what's going on in the world. I think being able to see that in a really condensed and fast way that doesn't necessarily engage with too much of the toxicity is something that a lot of people need, just to be able to get into that without immediately saying, okay, I'm going to dive into the Twitter sewers and see what people are saying. Yeah, I just think that the information itself is a good thing to have.
Thanks for the talk. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on the transparency of the algorithm you've used, especially for the subject of the tweets. They might like to know exactly how that score's been calculated.
Yeah, so we've got all our code hosted on GitHub and it's open source. You can see that the library we use is called TextBlob, which is a pretty natural language processing thing. We've not looked to do deeply into how that works. We were hoping to use a different algorithm that's better at gauging toxicity, but that's sort of what we fell into as a backup, and our API access never came through. Yeah, I think that being able to see where that score comes from is, if you follow the chain of open source down, then you can find that.
Next up, completely arbitrary. This is our last team.
And most importantly, the reason why it matters is so that they can protect themselves from any potential harm. If they want to reduce the amount of sugar they're eating, if they want to stay away from preservatives, or protect the environment, so on and so forth. But in the internet today, there is no supermarket where you have, for example, FDA-approved websites that are curtailed towards individuals like we have with food products. And that's security, content, and privacy. Context and privacy. So let's start first with what we mean by security. We think one of the most important things that's happening today is that phishing websites are becoming more and more intelligent. For example, Apple, where I put in my Apple ID, where I put in my credit card information, is looking more and more like the actual website. We think that there is absolutely no protection for these individuals, especially if they are non-tech savvy, like looking at the URL,
or looking at who sent that email, that is going to protect them, right? We think that being able to have an algorithm that is able to find out that this is a phishing website and alert you immediately and easily by a simple notification as seen above, will then let you protect yourself from putting in very valuable data. Context. We think that today there's a huge amount of fake news on websites all over the world, and if I make a decision on information that is incorrect, the question is this actually informed consent? Which is why we think it's particularly important, whether or not you choose to read that article or not, to know whether or not it is actually factual or whether it is fake news. Thirdly, privacy. We think that, for example, websites do a couple of things without really telling you or hiding it in a lot of legalese kind of language. For example, if they're following your location, your geography, if they're following mouse movements, and you as an individual may not actually care if this is occurring, but we want you to be able to have that knowledge that this is being tested, this is being watched, this is being monitored by the website. And we don't think that everyone's going to say, oh, they have my geography or they have my location, I'm not going to use it. But we think that if there are individuals that want to do that, they should be able to have that choice, and more importantly, to just have that knowledge. In terms of a business model, we'll be an open source, and in the future, we may consider adding additional features that may or may not be membership feed.
So very quickly about the technology, we're going to be using open source libraries on GitHub to determine if a website is secure or not. There are many phishing libraries for that. And in terms of context, there are many fake news libraries. We've been through a lot of them, and we can keep trying to find out which one works best and which one works most accurately. And for privacy, we can detect if a website uses Google Analytics, Facebook Pixel, and we're not going to block that because that has ethical implications of its own, but we just want to make users aware of it. And then we bring all of that together into one extension, which you can install on the computers of your friends and families that aren't tech savvy, even for yourself. And then that's in the form of a desktop extension. We'd love to do a mobile extension as well, but with current limitations in Safari on iOS, we can't really do that right now. But so we looked into how Apple can design such a thing in the future. But for us, we just worked on the desktop extension, as you can see. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you for your presentation. What do you consider the USP of your technology, the unique selling point?
The unique selling point behind it is that it brings all of this in one central place, so it acts kind of like a hub. So right now, DuckDuckGo has something which tracks the privacy on websites and gives it a rating by grade. And you can probably find Facebook fake news Chrome extensions, as well as security ones. But having it all in one place rather than having to check separate extensions is pretty accessible. And the ability to check it right on the website without having to do anything, rather than checking on different websites, just seeing the Chrome extension change its icon to indicate if there's any danger on this website, we think that's part of the unique selling point.
And there's no one out there currently doing that?
We haven't found anyone that does all these three things in one place.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was wondering, hi, thank you for the presentation. I was wondering, as a user, once I get warned, what do I do? What else do I get?
So we've thought about having things like block a certain tracker, or with fake news, you can be more aware and then decide whether or not you want to carry on reading it. We're not going to block a website that spreads fake news because that has ethical implications of its own. So we just want users to be more informed. We're not trying to ban anything. In the future, we could look into blocking certain trackers if we want to, but then that also has ethical implications because who gives us that sort of authority? So we think the website comes as it is with all the privacy and security and context in place, and then the user needs to be as informed as we can make them so they can make an informed decision. We're not doing it on their behalf.
So thanks for your talk. So there are various extensions out there already, aren't there, which can block trackers, and they're very popular. So what can you just explain a little bit how your extension would fit in relation to those, and why someone would download that rather than any of the successfully existing extensions?
So ad blockers, for example, they're mainstream, but with certain track blockers, they haven't gone as mainstream as ad blockers. And we think to a certain extent, if used correctly, trackers and, like, for example, Google Analytics could have some benefit to the website owners so they can know the demographics of their users to better tailor the product. So we don't want to get in the way of that. And our main focus, I think, what users will find most beneficial is the fake news part and the security part, detecting a phishing website. And then the privacy one comes as an added benefit, where we don't want to interfere with blocking the trackers, but just making users more informed as well. But the reason someone would go ahead and download our extension rather than an extension that blocks out the trackers is because they can see, we hope they can see more value in these first 2 points. not many people see value in downloading extensions that block trackers, or else they would have been more popular than they are now. So yeah, our focus is on the first two.
Okay, thank you.
So that concludes the first round. Now we're going to ask the judges to come up with a shortlist, hopefully 3 teams that kind of stand out on all points. For that time they're going to talk, so we're going to ask the other participants to step out.